There's even some mainstream CNBC and The Independent. They're all reporting on it, that it's happening. They don't obviously put the spin on it that it's just a genial meeting of a bunch of well-meaning power players who are just trying to figure out how to solve all these world problems. But they're actually reporting on it now. However, in front of the event, there is just a handful of alternative media still. There's not even like one self-identified mainstream reporter. I don't see anybody there. I mean, in Davos, I saw Thomson Reuters. I saw, they wear the jackets. They're very proud of where they work for. Here, you don't see anything, even though you have the Wall Street Journal, you have the Washington Post. They're inside the meeting. These people, Ann Applebaum and I think Peggy Noonan, they're inside the meeting, and they still can't even get a couple of reporters out there to just cover it.
Dan Lyman joins me from InfoWars Europe's base out there, where he is covering the Bilderberg meetings that are happening in Turin, Italy. And we're going to get to that in the next segment with Dan Lyman. But Dan, I mean, how do you react to this? How do you respond to this? I mean, it's like unbelievable. They say no evidence. We have the text messages now unredacted. Oconus lures. They admit they had spies. I mean, it's right there. Obama wanted everything. We have all the evidence. Literally, we have all the evidence, and they just say, oh, no, you don't. You don't have any evidence. This never happened.
Yeah, you can draw a correlation between this and Bilderberg, which is going on right now, which not too long ago, pretty much everyone in the mainstream media ridiculed any of us who even dared to talk about it as it being completely, it didn't exist. And as we know, Alex is one of the first people that really exposed that, and InfoWars has covered it year in and year out. And now it's a mainstream thing. They have a website. They announce their attendance. They have mainstream media figureheads inside these meetings. It's now a known thing. So I can't help but think of this famous quote: first they ignore you, then they laugh at you, then they fight you, and then you win. I think we're around the fight stage. So are we going to win next? I think that's we're in that transition right now.
And I guess it really just depends on the American public. But the average citizen, I mean, not trying to be insulting, they're victims of the screen time, the drugs, the chemicals in the food and water. But it's like, does the average American have enough thought capacity left, have enough logic left to see the lies? Or do they just take it for what it is? Oh, I saw John Oliver. He said InfoWars is a joke, Trump's stupid, so I believe it. Does the average American now have enough critical thinking to understand that they're being lied to? That's the question. Can they still read? Do they still have a memory? That's the real thing. Can the average American still read, and do they have a memory left?
That's a good question. I think what's happening right now, and we see this across the West in Europe with the populist surge, and then, of course, with what's going on in North America, is there were a lot of people who would call themselves either centrists or disengaged or didn't pay attention to the news or whatever. And I think that center area is becoming definitively divided between people who can wake up and accept the fact that we're being lied to. They might not be like fully engaged like InfoWars listeners, but the middle ground, which I've called kind of collateral damage in this info war and this war basically for the future of civilization. There's that line is dividing down the middle, and you have rabid crazies on the left, and then you have a lot of other folks who are pushing over it just into the realm of seeking truth and looking for answers to questions that maybe never even popped into their head until people like Kanye West and Elon Musk are putting out these bombshell statements into the world where it's like, wow, there's a mass awakening happening. But it is dividing people pretty aggressively at this point.
Yeah, I mean, even Kim Kardashian, tweeting out her thank you for Trump pardoning her friend or whatever. I mean, even that, I think, freaks some of the left out. It's funny, though, they accept that, and then they hate him for everything else. I mean, literally, you can see people on Twitter saying, oh, Trump did good here, but everything else he does is bad. Kim Kardashian, good. Everything else Trump does is bad. But this is like, let's say Media Matters. I'm going to do an analogy here. Let's say Media Matters, after this segment, goes and prints a story that says, Dan Lyman joins InfoWars to report live on the Bilderberg conference. And then we come out and we say, Dan Lyman was never on InfoWars Live today. What are you talking about? And then they show the segment. They're like, here's Dan Lyman on InfoWars. We're saying, well, maybe he was on Info. He wasn't talking about Bilderberg, though. There was no discussion of Bilderberg. He wasn't reporting on Bilderberg. And they're like, okay, no, here he is talking about Bilderberg. And we're like, Well, he wasn't really reporting on it or talking. We were just kind of chatting about it, just mulling around about it. That's what they're saying. I mean, that's what they're saying with this Spygate issue. We've got all the evidence. Clapper admits it. It's in the declassified text messages. They say, and then they say, oh, we were spying on him for his own protection, his own good, yet they didn't tell President Trump, and they weren't spying on Hillary Clinton, whose emails and classified servers were actually compromised. So, I mean, it's all so fake. I'm just hoping and wondering still if the average American can even soak it all in and sort it all out. We'll be right back. Well, if you are listening to the likes of Stephen Colbert, Jimmy Kimmel, John Oliver, or Bill Maher to get news and information, you have been fooled. You have been bamboozled. You have been lied to. Don't believe me? Look at the fake news reporters for yourself.
Now, Republicans, you're the Alex Jones party. There is literally nothing too stupid and conspiratorial that you will not swallow.
Trump tweeted, terrible, just found out that Obama had my wires tapped in Trump Tower just before the victory. Nothing found. This is McCarthyism. And the other one, how low has President Obama gone to tap my phones during the very sacred election process?
And this weekend, we saw another example of that when White House counselor Kellyanne Conway was asked if she had any proof for Trump's outlandish claim that Obama wiretapped him during the campaign, and offered this bizarre answer.
How does he know that his phone was actually tapped?
Let me answer that globally. He's the president of the United States. He has information and intelligence that the rest of us do not.
He's suggesting a U.S. president enlisted a foreign intelligence service to spy on a political adversary. That is an explosive charge.
This is a serious allegation. This might be the most serious allegation any president has made against a previous president.
But this is a very serious allegation for a sitting president to make about his predecessor.
The craziest thing about Trump calling for an investigation without any evidence, zero evidence. Trump has not produced a shred of evidence.
There is no evidence for Trump's claims.
The evidence did not come.
So where did Trump get his info? From the CIA? From the FBI?
Where are you getting this information?
From a very reputable source.
What, the FBI, the CIA?
InfoWars. It's a radio show hosted by Alex Jones. You know he's legit.
This bizarre circular thing happening where the president cites a theory that he was wiretapped, which developed on the kind of fringe right-wing media. And then after his tweet storm, InfoWars then started saying, well, look, it was the New York Times that reported it, citing our story, misreading our story. And now, a few weeks later, the White House and the president are citing InfoWars. So they've got one kind of bizarre right-wing fringe theory to defend another bizarre right-wing fringe theory.
The crazier it gets, the more they like it. That's their jam.
So there you go. Now, they can say no evidence and make a joke of Trump being spied on. Of course, why would they do that? Oh, just like they say the CIA and the FBI are reputable sources. Oh, now you get it. See, the CIA and the FBI run those shows. The CIA and the FBI are running Jimmy Kimmel, Bill Maher, John Oliver, and Stephen Colbert. Why else would they sit here and act like they weren't spying on President Trump, even though we have all the evidence that they were? So let me explain the operation that they're doing right now. They're laying the groundwork for this to be reported on as a joke. So they do this whole thing before all of it comes out. Oh, it's a joke. He never spied. And then the average American, the average citizen, is so brainwashed that that then becomes their cemented thought, and they don't have the critical thinking ability to do the research for themselves and realize that Trump was spied on, and they already believe John Oliver, a fake news reporter. So if you understand that, you understand everything. But to, again, draw the analogy to Bilderberg, which my guest Dan Lyman from InfoWars Europe was reporting in the last segment, who joins me here now, you could do that same exact compilation of all the news, everybody saying, InfoWars says a secret group meets called Bilderberg. InfoWars says Bilderberg is meeting in Switzerland. Bilderberg, the group that controls the world, says Alex Jones. As if it doesn't exist, they wouldn't report on it. Oh, now everybody knows. Now they're wide up out in the open. And, oh, does anybody apologize to InfoWars for reporting on it first and then being made fun of? So Dan Lyman, again, kind of draw the comparisons to how they act like something doesn't exist, even though it's right in front of your face.
Yeah, absolutely right. You know, there was recently a hit piece by BuzzFeed on us where they were talking about that InfoWars has a manager in Switzerland. They just called us a conspiracy site. No, like not even the least bit of a nod to the fact that we're a full-blown media outlet. So yeah, it's amazing. What I also find amazing is event today. You know, this has been going on for years now. It's out in the open. There's even some mainstream CNBC and The Independent. They're all reporting on it that it's happening. They don't obviously put the spin on it that it's just a genial meeting of a bunch of well-meaning power players who are just trying to figure out how to solve all these world problems. But they're actually reporting on it now. However, in front of the event, there is just a handful of alternative media still. There's not even like one self-identified mainstream reporter. I don't see anybody there. I mean, in Davos, I saw Thomson Reuters. I saw, you know, they wear the jackets. They're very proud of where they work for. Here, you don't see anything, even though you have the Wall Street Journal, you have the Washington Post. They're inside the meeting. These people, Ann Applebaum and I think Peggy Noonan, they're inside the meeting, and they still can't even get a couple of reporters out there to just cover it. And I was watching some coverage of it by an independent journalist, and he raised the great point, saying, if this was a meeting of actors or celebrities or sports stars, in the top 150 in the world, essentially, if they were all in one place, the place would be crawling with press just to catch a glimpse of them. But they're not even bothering with Bilderberg, and it's crazy.
And doesn't that show you the bread and circus? And then that explains why children grow up idolizing athletes and not even having a clue about what goes on in the real world. That shows you it right there. The real, let's say all of these world leaders from the private industries and from governments and big tech and everything meets here. These are the people that actually are shaping the world that you live in. Okay, at least that's what they claim. You know, I mean, they say it in their own papers. Look at what they're talking about in these meetings. But then you have a bunch of athletes that really don't shape the world outside of their own little sports bubble, which is fine. Don't really impact the future. Don't really change your life for the good or better, you know, or help your family or anything really. But that's the obsession. Like you said, I like that analogy. If you had LeBron James and Tom Brady and Lionel Messi and all of the best athletes meeting for a conference for whatever, the press would be everywhere. Just look at what happens when a Super Bowl is in town. Look at what happens with the Asian player, I believe he's from Japan, who's playing for the Los Angeles Angels. I remember when there was a player who was playing for the St. Louis Cardinals, So Taguchi, just having a Japanese athlete in St. Louis, hundreds of Japanese media outlets showed up to every game. So there's an obsession with sports that doesn't affect the future, but then the actual people that are claiming to try to shape the future, the media just doesn't even want to pay attention to that.
Right. If LeBron James has a comment about Trump, you'll see it in every newspaper, every website, especially if it's derogatory, which of course it always is. But then you have, you know, these power players. These are some big time folks, and they're all getting together, and there's like hardly a whisper. I've managed to talk to a few locals. Obviously, the language barrier is there. My Italian is not very strong, but a few of them, they knew what Bilderberg was, which was a good sign. I don't know how they knew, but one Italian lady, she said, "Do you like Bilderberg or don't?" I said, "No, it's not. It's not a good thing." And she said, "Good, good," and she gave me a handshake. So there's a little bit of awareness, so that's a good thing. Probably more than there was in the past. But in general, it's just people walking by, going about their everyday life as this monumental event is happening, like right in their walkway, basically.
Well, and let's kind of shed more light on this as well, where when Bilderberg was more of a secret thing and the media was blacking it out and the only people that would report on it were InfoWars, that's when it was truly the secret conglomeration of big industry and big government coming together for a continuity of government scheme. But once it got forced out there and being reported, that's when they went public. So the whole thing about them going public is like putting a shadow over the whole thing. So now they've expanded the thing. They do a whole public rollout of what they're going to talk about, show you the list. And then, you know, some of these people get inside and then they kind of see the whole thing and they say, oh, it's no big deal. They just have conferences and everything. No. They have secret meetings. They're acting like this is some big thing they're showing you. No. They still have secret meetings with only a select few. So I just wanted to make sure the audience understands that.
Absolutely. I think I'm trying to figure out why there isn't a lot. There's no protesters. I know in past years there's been, you know, plenty of protesters or a strong alternative media presence. Here, there's like nothing here this year, and I'm trying to figure out why that. Like trying to figure out from my own perspective why that is. One angle that I'm thinking is we've forced these people out into the open. Now enough people know that they exist, and it's like we've moved on to the next thing in many ways because we forced them out into the open. We smoked them out. So I can look at it that way and say it's a positive thing. Now they can't operate in secrecy because people like Alex made these people go public. So it could be a good thing.
I think another angle might be, though, some of the same people that would go out and protest that you know, that say Trump is trying to help the 1%, now see the Bilderberg group as anti-Trump, so they're like, oh, maybe I like the Bilderberg group. So there might be an element of that involved in this too. Dan Lyman, you can find all his work at Infowars.Europe or Europe.Infowars.com. Thanks for joining us. Brandon Tatum on the other side. Don't go anywhere.
You know, someone very profoundly once said many years ago that if fascism ever comes to America, it'll come in the name of liberalism.
You're a white man! You're a white man!
If you are receiving this transmission, you are the resistance.
Owen Schroyer here for Infowars.com, and this Sunday, Bill Clinton's book tour is coming to Austin, Texas. Now, Bill Clinton got away with all of his abuse of women while he was president and over the decades and beyond. And now the left wants to start a hashtag #MeToo revolution for all the victims of toxic masculinity in Hollywood and in government, but they want to leave Bill Clinton out of it. Well, we're not going to let the left get away with that. And so we're going to be having a protest, a Me Too protest outside Bass Concert Hall, Sunday, June 10th in Austin, Texas. Bring your Bill Clinton rape t-shirt from InfoWarsStore.com. Bring your Bill Clinton rape whistle from InfoWarsStore.com and protest Bill Clinton's book tour coming to Austin, Texas, Sunday, June 10th at 6 p.m. Central. And if you can't be there to protest Bill Clinton with your Bill Clinton rape t-shirt and your Bill Clinton rape whistle from InfoWarsStore.com, then you can see the live stream starting at 6 p.m. Central at InfoWars.com/show.